Back inside the friendly confines of Sport Chek's flagship location at West Edmonton Mall, it's the panel. Tom Gazzola with Bob Stauffer and Jack Michaels from the Oilers Radio Network. After a prolonged losing streak for the Oilers this season, they win in Dallas, an arena they don't win a lot in, and then they happen to beat the best team in the Western Conference 5-0. Gentlemen, any noticeable difference in style of play since the losing streak to what they started doing in the last two games? What's led to these victories?
Well, it's been a strange year, Tom. I mean, when you look at the Edmonton Oilers, I don't know if they were ever really as good as 7-1 to start the year, and I don't think they were that bad in terms of the 5-game losing streak.
There were close losses
They had a couple games that they could have won, maybe with a couple more saves or maybe a little bit more puck luck. They changed the lineup, and they've gotten some puck luck. And then against the Chicago Blackhawks, Cam Talbot completely outplayed Corey Crawford as well. That factored into it. So I think what we're seeing is there are going to be some highs and lows. This is still a growth team. I think we've seen the impact of a guy like Chris Russell coming in the back end, Jack, and maybe changing the complexion and makeup of the minutes played for the defense. But this is a better team that'll continue to grow as the season goes on.
What I noticed in the last two games in particular was on the defensive side of the puck and the back pressure, coming back into your own zone, and then defending the skilled Blackhawks in their offensive zone. I mean, particularly the key was shutting Patrick Kane down, coming off the half wall, not allowing him to get in the high slot and explore options to Seabrook or Keith cutting down. And you took that away, and as a result, Chicago's skill players basically disappeared for all three periods. I mean, Marian Hossa came in with 9 goals in his last 10 games. We didn't really call his name much at all. Same with Jonathan Toews, a non-factor. Patrick Kane was frustrated by, of all things, the defensive pressure applied by Connor McDavid. When they were matched up one-on-one, he couldn't shake McDavid and got frustrated. I think Edmonton's effort defensively was very reminiscent of what they did on short rest at Joe Louis Arena a couple weeks ago in Detroit. 4 third-period shots allowed in closing out that victory, and 3 third-period shots given up last night. Extremely impressive defense for Edmonton, which I think will make the coaching staff ecstatic moving forward.
Coaching staff's talked about attention to detail, and you're right, it's been better. How about, is it too much to make of scoring the first goal? Because we talked about how many times they were getting scored on early and how many times they're giving up the first goal.
I think you can never underscore the importance of getting off to a good start in the NHL. I mean, it's a 3-2 league, to paraphrase Daryl Sutter. And so, we're seeing a scenario. Last couple games, Cam Talbot has made really good saves within the first minute and a half.
Toews the other night.
2 minutes. Yeah, and you take a look at that stretch where Talbot went 1-6-1 and had a save percentage of .891. He was giving up, goals early in those games, and now you're chasing. Well, instead, the Oilers have been getting the good save early in the game and then been getting the first goals the last couple of games, and it's completely changed the complexion. So no, you can never underscore the importance of scoring first in the NHL, at least from my perspective.
Well, and the biggest thing for Edmonton right now is they come through their first 20 games, and I think they've answered what most people were wondering was that 7-1 start a mirage? Take a look at 8 of the first 10 games against teams that were not in the playoffs a year ago. You go 7-2-1 with quality wins at home over St. Louis and Washington. Then the next stretch, 10 games in a row against teams that were in the playoffs a year ago, and 3 against what I would suggest are the 2 best teams in the league right now, who happen to play one another last night, the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you come out of it 4-6. Is that a fantastic record? No. But is it indicative of a team that's going to sink into the bottom third of the standings? Not at all. I think those days are over. As long as Connor McDavid stays healthy and Cam Talbot gives them quality starts, this team is not going to backslide. This team deserves to be considered a legitimate contender, particularly in a Western Conference and in specifically a Pacific Division that is not as strong top to bottom as it was even 2 years ago.
And we're going to get to that. And more to your point, Tom McClellan has spoken about managing success and how they handle it. Now, all of a sudden, they've got 2 wins in a row, statement win over the Blackhawks. They go in to play against the Colorado Avalanche, 9-9, coming off a decent road trip, and then it's Phoenix. Let's start with Colorado and what we want to see there from the Oilers, and then let's get to Arizona, where the struggles in that building have been huge.
Yeah, well, from an Oilers perspective, maybe one of the things that we're seeing right now is that, we used to worry so much about what the opposition was bringing and how they were playing. And really, I think as the Oilers grow and develop as a team, it's going to be more about what Edmonton does and how Edmonton establishes their game. The Avalanche does Landeskog play. possibly. They just got Duchesne back. Varlamov's been very inconsistent this season, but really it's ultimately going to be about how the Oilers, come out in that game. And then the 2 games against Arizona, the one on the road and then at home.
Yeah.
These are not the same Coyotes. They have gone to a youth movement. Arizona's owned the Oilers during the Dave Tippett regime. That has to come to an end. But again, it's going to be defined to me based upon how the Oilers perform and what sort of level of intensity they have right from the start of those games.
And just to follow up, I'm not concerned. Arizona hasn't been good the last 3 years, and they've still beaten the Oilers.
Right.
Arizona has gotten at least a point against the Oilers the last 5 years. So it's time to break that. It's time to start beating teams, and not only beating teams, but beating them in regulation. Because as you start talking about the playoffs as a legitimate possibility, it starts meaning something whether you beat them in regulation or whether you don't. I think it's safe to say in the last few years, you celebrate a win no matter where it comes. Well, now in these head-to-head games, it's time to start taking 2 points and the opposition gets none. That's what the good teams do.
Rivals.
Exactly. Head-to-head, you're pushing these teams down. We always hear coaches, the biggest thing they worry about is pushing those teams below them in the standings down so they're not heard from them again. And look, I know we're only at the quarter pole, but it's not too early for Edmonton to start thinking that way.
All right, let's see if the Oilers can do that. It starts Wednesday night in Denver, and then, of course, see if the Oilers can push down a Pacific Division foe Friday night against the Arizona Coyotes.